gentlemen, you're watching News Now with me, Sumita Karir. We have lots lined up on the show, but first up, an exclusive. Well, the India-EU trade relationship is set for a major boost, with the EU Ambassador to India, Herbie Delfin, expressing confidence that the FTA will be signed by the end of 2026. In fact, Delphin says that the deal could give duty-free access to over 90% of India's exports to the EU. In fact, I had this exclusive conversation with the ambassador just this afternoon. Let's take a look at all that he had to say on the deal coming into effect, on the kind of synergies that can be expected from the agreement once it comes into force. Take a look. Ambassador, thank you very much for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. You are, of course, completing your tenure here in India. Give us a sense of how the India-EU relationship has moved and what have been some of the key highlights of your tenure here.
Well, it has definitely moved very positively. I mean, if you think where we were 3-4 years ago and where we are, I wouldn't call it a sea change, but I think a dramatic positive evolution. And in every respect, I mean, in the trade and economic domain, in security and defense, in technology, in mobilities, and name it. So we have in this period of time, we come to conclude our FTA. We sign up to a new strategic agenda, which is bold in ambition and wide in scope. We have a security and defense partnership, a mobility agreement, and soon Horizon Agreement Association, which is in the research and innovation. So it's quite impressive, I must say, what we've achieved in this period.
Absolutely, Ambassador, and the credit also goes to you, given the fact that, we did see the leadership from European Union come here, and of course there have been visits from India to Brussels as well. Very recently, the trade and technology meeting also happened. So, of course, there are various areas of engagement that we have seen over the past couple of years. But let me talk to you about the mother of all deals. Well, this is being talked about across the world. Give us a sense of where things stand as far as completion of the deal is concerned, the signing of the deal is concerned. On where things are as far as the deal getting ratified by the European Parliament is concerned.
So where we are, we're in a good spot. I must say, after the conclusion of the negotiation announced at the time of the summit, both sides have been working hard in going through what we call the legal scrubbing, the legal vetting of the text. And I think all details have been ironed out. And I think we are quite actually positive about the signing of the FTA by the end of this year. And therefore, once it's signed, and on our side we have the consent of the European Parliament, which will then open the way to the entry into force. So, in a way, it's not only the mother of all deals, it's probably one of the fastest deals that we have been going through. And again, it speaks how much the EU and India value each other in terms of trade and how this agreement matters to both geographies. So I think from early next year, companies, businesses, people will stand to benefit directly from this FTA.
Okay, since you say that next year, I'd like to ask you, do you expect the implementation to happen of this FTA before March? And what is it that businesses can expect from, consumers can expect from this FTA when it comes into force on day one itself?
I think we will certainly have the FTA entering into force a year after it was concluded, which I think by experience is one of the fastest process. So again, I think both sides are really been doubling down in making it happen.
Right.
In terms of concrete deliverables and benefits for the people, if you think that there will be duty-free on over 97% of India's export to Europe and 96% for Europe products, so it's a price issue first. But it's also, we will see increasingly products coming from Europe on Indian markets and shops, and likewise in Europe, Indian products. So I think that is the benefit for people. Companies, they have predictability.
Right.
They have a frame. And I think in this world of uncertainty, predictability has a strong value in itself. And of course, it's not just the FTA. As you know, we are negotiating an investment protection agreement. The two sides will come together. And I think you will see way more appetite from investors on both ends to come and invest in each other's economy. So it's not just, I would say, products and services that will be more affordable, but I think it just generates, it's an enabler for bringing our economies closer and more integrated. And this you will see. Somehow the experience of our FTAs is that volume of trade doubles, the value of trade doubles in matters of years, and it has been a strong incentive for developing partnerships. So I think the future looks bright for EU and India in business.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ambassador. The future looks bright, and like you said, predictability is the most important part as far as a trade deal is concerned, or any kind of partnership is concerned in this era of volatility. But when we talk about the India aspect, because you're also striking FTAs with several countries across the globe, but what is it that this FTA is called the mother of all deals? Why is it important for EU at this juncture?
I think through this FTA, I mean, it's 25% of the world GDP, 25% of the world population, two of the largest markets. So with this, you just capture why it's the mother of all deals. And on top of it, we offer each other's scale and complementarity. So it's an immense boost for both economy. And I think that would be a strong incentive. And if you take the wider picture of increasing competitiveness and weaponization of economy, when you have a level playing field, a rule-based FTA, as I said, that provides predictability, reliability, this is of immense value. So I think with all that together, that explains why this agreement stands out. Maybe, but in some aspect, is maybe less advanced in terms of certain provisions than other FTAs we signed, but in scope and ambition is certainly one of the most advanced FTA we have.
And absolutely, this means that India is, of course, going to be doing trade with 27 economies, complementary economies as well. But let me talk to you about the services chapter. There is a comprehensive chapter as far as services are concerned. How critical is that particular chapter and the concessions that have been given the fact that some governments across the world have been turning protectionist? And of course, there has been some restriction on account of migration and policies related to migration.
So service is certainly a sector where Indian companies tend to benefit from this FTA because there is strong service industry in this country. And with this FTA, I'm sure they will benefit certainly from greater access to Europe. I mean, the fact that your country hosts half of the world's global data capability and capability centers speaks for itself about the attractiveness for European companies to work with Indian service industry. So I'm in no doubt that India is already have a surplus in trade in services with the EU, and this will probably continue. When it comes to the other aspect of the FTA, I think we have really a lot to develop. Think of the automotive sector.
Right.
For European companies, this is important. At the same time, it can be a strong incentive for the modernization of the car park, so to say, here in India, with more EV vehicles. And I think there are aspirations by Indian consumers to have quality cars going from mid to premium segments. So I think the European companies can also offer that. So I think across the board you will see really, at the end of the day, consumers deciding, but I think that would be mutual benefit, definitely.
Let me ask you, Ambassador, about the Trade and Technology Council meetings that happened in Brussels. Minister Piyush Goyal traveled for that, and of course there was representation from the EU side as well. What complementarities do you see in this age of AI, in this age of semiconductors, chips, and of course we do see that there are tariff and trade wars happening on that account as well. So how do you really see this partnership building as far as the technology piece is concerned?
Yeah, you're right to mention the TTC in a sense that our agenda on trade and economy is made of different building blocks. And the FTA is certainly a powerful enabler, and so will be the investment protection agreement when it is concluded and signed. But the TTC somehow, I would say, gives the strategic steer. And the FTA, the TTC, we have with India and only with the US. These are the two countries, and I think that is significant in itself of why we want to do it with India, because it's about a more strategic approach to economy and economic security, resilience and security of supply chain and value chain. So what we have and what we discussed at the third TTC ministerial meeting that took place last July is what we want to upgrade it. And when I say upgrade, it's not cosmetics. It's really about going deeper in looking at selected value chain and how we can bring business into the conversation, part of the reflection on how we can integrate our value chain from the research, innovation, startups, skills, and I come back to your point on mobility, but also joint investment, manufacturing. So really the full circle in this technology. So semiconductors, you mentioned, cleantech, pharma, agri-food. These are those sectors where we really want to move forward. And the TTC will be a catalyst for this integration of our respective ecosystem.
You know, Ambassador, you're talking at a very interesting time about all of these partnerships because, of course, the government has just released the semiconductor mission. We are going, big as far as startups are concerned. And of course, pharma is also an area of critical importance to the government of India. But how these JVs shape up and these complementarities take shape will be interesting to see. My final question is with respect to one of the concerns that companies had with respect to CBAM. I do understand that this is, a geography-specific policy, but what are your assurances to Indian companies as far as that particular piece is concerned? I think there are separate conversations happening as far as, that particular chapter, that particular track is concerned.
Well, I think, but for your audience, I think it's important to recall what CBAM is and what it is not. And I think basically through CBAM, we want to avoid carbon leakage. As you know, the European companies in the single market of the EU are subjected to an emission trading system, ETS. Of course, if there are exporters to Europe that export at a lower price items and products with a high carbon content, this sets the European companies at a disadvantage. So we are creating a level playing field in that respect. The CBAM has been developing through a process of consultation and a phased-in approach. There were different rounds of consultation, including in India, to understand the concerns, simplifications, so that small exporters are not impacted, and that would be indeed the case. They will not be impacted because we will take in bulks. The implementation started the 1st of January and will be phased in until 2034. So it doesn't fall like a guillotine on Indian companies. There is one sector which is, let's say, the most important in terms of carbon content or in terms of export to Europe is steel and iron. But on this, we have, I think, through the CBAM, it actually anticipates on what we understand being the direction of travel of the steel and iron industry in India. They want to reduce the carbon content because they know that the future lies there. Absolutely. So in a way, if you look at the market signals and if you look at the share of Indian exporters to Europe, because we will continue to import steels, those who have low carbon content will actually maintain, if not increase, their share of the European market. And I think that is the important message. This is the incentive. And as far as the CBAM, we'd always said, it's not a punishment. That's not the design. And it's certainly not a protectionist tool. We would have designed it differently if we wanted to really to be a protectionist tool. But the conversation you referred to has indeed continued is what can we do together to accelerate India's own ambitions in decarbonization. And that's the reason why in the context of the FTA negotiation, we also discussed what can we do? And we put out a 500 million package that will precisely serve this purpose of supporting and energizing India's own ambitions in decarbonization. And that can be through energy, green hydrogen, clean tech, power grids. So we are really discussing these things. And I'm confident that somehow CBAM, which has been polluted, if I can use this image, by misrepresentation, will no longer be the issue it was presented to be.
Right, and we do hope that there will be conversations in that regard. But like you rightly said, Ambassador, India is moving towards decarbonization. Of course, green energy and reaching green energy goals is one of the key priorities for India as well. On that note, thank you very much, and all the very best for your next posting. Thank you very much once again for your time here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.